HOD, department officials and members of the public. I just want to check if I am audible, Ms. Adams.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, you're audible.
Thank you very much. Members, welcome to the Standing Committee on Finance, Vote 3, Provincial Treasury. Before we get started, if there are any members of the public joining us this morning, a very warm welcome to you as well. Just in terms of apologies, we have not received any apologies for this meeting. I just want to confirm with Ms. Adams if we are quorated in terms of the permanent members of the committee.
Yes, Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adams. With that being said, members, I'm not going to indicate the rules of engagement for virtual meetings. I'm sure we are all familiar with the rules of engagement for virtual meetings. And I will now hand over. Apologies. Let's start with a round of introductions first. I think we've done so many of these meetings now. We are very familiar with each other, but I'm Peter Johnson. I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance. If we can do the members first. Over to you, members.
Good morning, Chairperson Derek Wessels, and I am a member of the committee.
Good morning, Chairperson
Morning,
November
everyone.
Sipa.
Okay. Noma French Mbombo, thank you very much. Mornings.
Good morning, Chairperson Khalil Barankas, member of the committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Noel Constable, member of the committee.
Morning, Chair. Nomin Kondlo, member of the committee.
Morning, Chair. Beauty Stoffel, alternate on the committee.
Thank you, members, and welcome to all of you. Minister and HOD, over to you for introduction.
Good morning, Deirdre Bartman, Minister of Finance. I'm going to hand over to HOD and the team just to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Julinda Gantana, Provincial Treasury. I'm going to ask the team to do the introductions alphabetically in the order of their first names, starting with Annalise. Thanks, Chair.
Good morning, Annalise Pick, Public Finance.
Good morning, everybody. Annie-Marie Smith as Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning, everybody. This one's you.
Good morning, everybody. Isaac Smith, PT, Governance and Asset Management.
Good morning, everyone. Jonathan Hendricks, Provincial Government Budget Office.
Good morning, everyone. Michelle Nicholas, Provincial Government Finance.
Good morning, everybody. Michelle Philander, SOMS Unit, PT.
Good morning, everybody. Nadia Ismail, Director SOMS.
Good morning, all. It's Nadia Ibrahim, Chief Director at Asset Management.
Good morning, everyone. Nashreen Ludovic from Financial Management.
Thank you, HOD. I think that concludes the introductions. I will now hand over to the Minister and the HOD for introductory remarks. Over to you, Minister and HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not going to bore everyone with going through the same information as previously. Vote 3 has not changed. We will still be appropriating 359 million in the first year, 383 million in the second year, and 400 in the outer year. And I therefore table the vote for questions and for deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. HOD, anything from your side?
And nothing other than to say, Chair, members, we also have Ms. Taryn van der Rede online, as well as Mr. Ziad Majid. Taryn is from the Budget Office or Fiscal Policy, and Ziad is from the Infrastructure Unit. I can maybe just expand on the program amounts. For Program 1, 61.2 million. For Program 2, 170 million. Program 3, 78 million. And Program 4, 49.2 million. For the 25-26 financial year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, HOD. Members, you are now requested for any general questions or comments based on the introductory remarks made by the Minister and the HOD. If you have any, you are welcome to raise your hand. I see Member Mkondlo. HOD, I just want to check with you and the team. Do you have any infographic or presentation for this meeting, or just want to check for that? I don't think there is.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, Minister.
Oh, sorry.
You go.
No, I was just going to say no. It's all the presentations and infographics are the same as last time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister and HOD. Member Mkondlo, you are welcome to pose your question.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the Provincial Minister and her team. Minister, I just want to check, going back to what you presented to the House, because we are in a very unfamiliar environment since our democracy. I'm just wanting to understand this retabling. What is the meaning of retabling in legal terms? As you stated, I quote, "We are hereby today due to the withdrawal of the national budget by Minister Kodongwana, including the National Division of Revenue Bill, upon which all provincial budgets are legally based." So based on this, close quote, sorry. Based on this, Minister, my understanding is that the national budget on which you based your provincial presentation or budget on the 27th of March was withdrawn. So I'm trying to understand, what is retabling? Does it mean that previous budget, because National had withdrawn theirs, does it mean legally that presentation of that budget was nullified? Then we are supposed to come to a new budget. What is this particular process of retabling legally? And I'm raising this because as a member of this committee, I always want to educate myself about my role. So I'm trying to understand that before I even get to the detail of what is being is in this vote. I just want to understand that, if you can help me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Mkondlo. Any other members for questions to the Minister and the Department at this stage? I do not see any hands. Minister and HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of the national budget, we have our fiscal framework nationally. We have our division of revenue bill, and then we have our appropriations bill. So our fiscal framework is really nationally to say what is the amount of money in the pot for the whole country. So you have your national fiscal framework and then you have your provincial fiscal framework. And as the 9 MECs, we also have a body called Budget Council that we attend, that is chaired by the National Finance Minister. And we then agree upon the provincial fiscal framework. That provincial fiscal framework is then essentially the division of revenue bill. So nationally, you first deal with the fiscal framework, and I saw the national fiscal framework yesterday was adopted. Then you have your division of revenue bill. Now that division of revenue is what the 9 provincial budgets are based on, because we get our equitable share and our conditional grants, we get through the division of revenue bill. Because the national budget was withdrawn, and that includes the fiscal framework, it included the division of revenue bill, and it included the appropriations bill. So that division of revenue bill that gave us the 95% of our money in terms of provinces was withdrawn. And in terms of Section 27 of the PFMA, our budget must be retabled within 2 weeks of the National Minister's budget. So he tabled on the 21st of May, the retabling of Budget 3.0. So legally, we had until tomorrow to table our provincial budget. Because the provincial fiscal framework has not changed, there was no need to change the provincial budget. And even the new money or additional funding that was announced by the national minister will only be coming in at a later date. So there was no need to change the provincial budget. So it's a tabling of the budget that happened this week. We have not changed our budget. The provincial fiscal framework for provinces have not changed. And we are here. So upon the advice of National Treasury, we was in conversation with the Provincial Parliament. We received advice from legal in the Department of the Premier, as well as all the advice from our treasurers in the Provincial Treasury, and everyone came to the same conclusion that we retable this budget because even though the Division of Revenue bill doesn't change, we retable it because the Division of Revenue bill was introduced anew because your provincial budget is based on the fact that there's a national law being introduced. So if that national law is withdrawn, your provincial budget, the basis of it then is withdrawn as well. So we are putting it back into the House for consideration. Thank you, Chair. I just want to check quickly, HOD and the team, if you would like to add, if I've missed anything, or thank you.
No, Minister, I think we are covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and HOD. Member Nkondlo, I see your hand. Is that a new question?
A follow-up, Chair.
You are welcome to do that now, Member Nkondlo.
Okay, thank you. Minister, maybe firstly on process, because I think you've mainly explained a process of how things are put together, which is something that one understands. I think my question was more, what is the meaning of the retabling from a legal point of view? And you have explained the process. Now, Minister, what I'm trying to get at here is that one, there was a budget that you tabled on the 27th of this particular vote, let alone your role, with all the other votes collectively. And therefore, that budget set in Parliament on the 27th of March. It went through committees, we engaged, we made inputs into that process. That process was concluded in the House with the voting. So I was interested to understand that legally, does that mean because of the withdrawal, that entire process has been nullified in law and therefore you can't make reference to it? You are starting a new process, or, as you are saying, that process by implication, and this is the gray area I'm not understanding here, is that if you say that process was because of national, which was withdrawn, I'm not sure what does it mean to the provincial process. Is it put in abeyance, as you are saying now? Substantively, there is nothing that has changed, because in the national process, there is something substantive that has changed. That is why that process had to be withdrawn, to get us to where we are. And I'm raising this, and that's the issue that I wanted to understand, that again, in the different votes, including in this one, you would have received inputs from committee members, and based on those particular inputs, for me, it becomes strange that despite that, in the retabling, you bring into the House and you say, making reference to what you presented on the 27th, as this particular process that we are getting into is an extension of a withdrawn process. That is one thing that I was just trying to understand, because it just does not make sense in my head. And I thought, you'll just help me to understand whether that process of Minister Kotongwana, if it was withdrawn in law, does it mean, he can then come back and extend that process? But even that process of his, substantively, there were issues like the VAT hike and other things that had to be changed for him to go back to Parliament. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Nkondlo. Minister, I'm not sure if you would like to respond to the question posed by Member Nkondlo at this stage.
No problem, Chairperson. So I'll just quickly deal with the items nationally that have changed. We did also present these items in the Budget Committee as well previously. In terms of the items that have changed, those will affect the appropriation bill and those will also affect the national fiscal framework. But in terms of the provincial fiscal framework, nothing has changed. So for example, that is not a matter that affects the provincial fiscal framework. And some of the other items like, fuel levy, such as money that goes to SARS, those type of things, none of those items fall within the provincial fiscal framework. So you won't see those particular changes in the division of revenue bill. I think there's only 1 or 2 provinces that are affected, but that is through grants. I think that there was a change in 1 or 2 provinces, but in terms of the Western Cape, our provincial fiscal framework has remained the same, and the pot of money for provinces have also remained the same, which is why we refer to the provincial fiscal framework. The second part of it is in terms of the parliamentary process is a little bit different to the process that we follow in government, and the parliamentary process falls within the ambit of the provincial parliament and the programming authority. So even the process that we are following today is part of the authority of the programming authority in terms of, and we follow the program accordingly. In terms of the provincial fiscal framework and the budget retabling, is we are retabling the budget, and to my knowledge, there's nothing that prevents us from making reference to a previous process, even if it's withdrawn. And the reason we withdrew the previous process is because if the division of revenue bill is withdrawn, then how you're getting your money and where you're getting your money from has disappeared. So we are retabling now because there's a new division of revenue bill. Even though the money has not changed, we have to essentially rebring everything in this regard. I'm hoping that I've covered everything in the question. I'm just going to ask HOD to also come in here. I know we've received extensive advice both from the National Treasury as well as from the legal eagles on these type of matters. And the advice from National Treasury has also been for provinces to please retable their budgets. Thank you so much. HOD?
Thank you, Minister, through you, Chair. And I don't, because I am not the legal expert on this, but I do think because the division of revenue was withdrawn because of all these issues, the national minister tabled the budget, and I think it is referred to as and he himself in his speech referred to it as, I think he made mention of budget 3.0, mentioning in terms of the times that he had to return to Parliament to table. I think because that was withdrawn, we were issued with new allocation letters, and we were asked then to table again. Because nothing changed in terms of what was tabled previously, and we're coming back to then table this budget. I think for me it could be a matter of semantics, but in actual fact it is a tabling of a 2025-26 budget, but understanding that we have been to the House previously with a tabling prior to the withdrawal of the division of revenue. But because nothing has changed, we are now tabling this budget 2025-26.
Thank you, Minister and HOD. Members, we have 11 minutes left of this meeting, so we will now move over to the consideration of Vote 3, Provincial Treasury, in the schedule of the Western Cape Appropriation Bill. And in the electronic copy of the Blue Book, you'll find the vote on pages 85 to 128. I table the entire section for discussion, and members are now allowed to ask specific questions based on sections between pages 85 to 128. Please raise your hands now. I see Member Nkondlo is the first hand. Any other members at this point in time? Over to you, Member Nkondlo.
Chairperson, I just want to state upfront, it would be a very difficult exercise to actually ask questions of a process that the provincial minister and the HOD and the department are saying is actually, in a way, an extension of a process that we have undergone. And this is the technicality that I was trying to understand earlier on, because we did ask our questions, and some of those questions, could not be answered. Others were referred, we're going to be sent information as part of the previous resolution. So the technicality that we are confronted with now is, I think, for me, an administrative or compliance exercise, because in any way you are bringing us a book, which by its very self has not been tabled, because that book was not tabled to us today. That book would have been tabled then in the previous process. So I'm not sure how do we deal with it, as the department didn't even have a presentation on it today, because it's making the assumption that whatever that it presented in March is something that today, is being retabled according to them. So my take, it's very difficult to ask any questions from that page to that page on a matter that is not necessarily tabled anew, as they are saying. And I would like to request that the department, if they can, share with us the legal opinion that they received, especially on the notion of retabling, of what is the meaning of retabling in legal terms. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Nkondlo. Any other members for questions to the Minister or the HOD and the department? I do not see any hands. Ms. Adams, if we can just record what Member Nkondlo just alluded to in our resolutions at the end. Minister HOD, if you would like to respond to what Member Nkondlo said.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the matter was more a comment, not necessarily a question. But in terms of the legality that is before us at the moment, all documents were tabled on the 3rd of June in the House, as is required, both in law and in the terms of the parliamentary process. We are attending all committees as scheduled by the Programming Authority of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, including future meetings of the sittings and committees as in the program. We are putting the vote for the committee's consideration. If I remember the rules correctly, nothing specifically indicates that a presentation must be done. We usually do the presentation as a summary of what is in the documents as tabled on the 3rd of June previously and before us today. And in that regard, we hope that the committee agrees with the matters contained in vote 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. Members, we have 7 minutes left of this meeting. I would just like to, if there are any members of the public online this morning, if there are any questions to the Minister or the HOD, before we give a final round to members, I would just like to afford members of the public the opportunity, if there are any. I do not see any hands at this stage. Ms. Adams, please just help me check on the screen. But a final round for members, if anyone would like to ask any questions to the Minister and the department, please raise your hands now. I do not see any hands. With that being said, I would just like to thank the Minister, the HOD officials, and all members of the public for your inputs and for the deliberations on the vote. Members, you are just requested to stay behind for the consideration and adoption of our report and resolutions. But Minister, you and your HOD and the department officials, thank you for joining us this morning. You are welcome to leave the meeting now. And if you have any concluding remarks, you are welcome to do so now.
None. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Okay, members.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
We will now consider and adopt a draft committee report. I would like to ask those members in support of the vote to please raise your hands now. Just want to open the chat. Members in support of the vote. I see Member Nokumasipa, Member Dirk Wessels, myself, Member Noma French Mbombo, and Member Noel Constable. Thank you very much, members. You can now just lower your hands again. Those members who do not support the vote, please raise your hands. I see Member Nkondlo and I see Member Brankhuis does not support the vote. Thank you, members. You are, if you can please just lower your hands. Thank you very much. Ms. Adams, can you flight the draft committee report for us? Thank you so much, members. The report will read as follows. Report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Vote 3, Provincial Treasury in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B4 2025, dated 5 June 2025. The Standing Committee on Finance, having considered the subject of Vote 3, Provincial Treasury and scheduled to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill, referred to the committee in terms of Standing Rule 188, and that it supports the vote referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 90. The African National Congress and Al Jamaa expressed their minority view to not support the vote. Members, can I have a proposer and a seconder for the adoption of the report? Anyone to propose? I see Member Constable and Member Nokumasipa. Thank you very much, members. We have adopted our draft committee report. And just for a final point on our agenda for committee resolutions, I think I've recorded Member Nkondlo asking for the legal opinion that Provincial Treasury got as a resolution. Ms. Adams, did you record that one as well?
Yes, Chair, I have that.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Members, any further resolutions? I do not see any hands. Ms. Adams, is there any other business that you have to deal with for today?
No, Chair, that's all.
Thank you very much. Members, thank you for joining this morning. That brings us to the end of today's meeting. This meeting is now adjourned. Have a great day. Thank you very much.